Welcome, lady friends. What's up? It's your girl here, Olivia, international life and business coach. If you're a creative and ambitious woman who wants to have breakthroughs not only in your business, your bank account, but also your brain, then this is the podcast for you, girlfriend. Get ready to rock your online business, master your social media presence, and monetize your passion from your mobile. Woo! It's time to elegantly strap on those lady balls and jump in. Are you ready to start slaying your side hustle? If so, then join me. Let's get started. Welcome, ladies, to today's podcast. I'm so excited to have identical twins here, Annie and Gracie Calvaneso. Welcome to the podcast, girls.
Thank you so much. Hi.
And where are you guys tuning in from?
Gracie? Well, okay, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, in my house.
Cool. And Annie?
I am right outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Beautiful. So I asked these two lovely ladies to join me on a podcast today, basically to talk all about using your voice. And being on a podcast is actually probably the best platform to talk about that, because that's what this is all about. And Annie and Gracie are both singers and successful in their own right. So ladies, do you want to just tell everyone what it is that you do?
Yeah, for sure. So this is Gracie speaking, by the way. we might have to say who we are before we talk, because we have such similar voices. Yeah. So this is Gracie. Hi, everyone. So I am a singer, songwriter, vocal coach, and pop artist living in Nashville, Tennessee.
Beautiful.
Woo.
Woo.
And I'm Annie. I'm a singer. I'm also a health and fitness coach for singers. I'm the founder and owner of the Glam Fit Diva brand. So I help singers with health and fitness. And right now I'm also helping other artists and creatives to start their own businesses as well.
Love it. Love it. So what I want to ask you both is, singing has obviously been a big part of both of your lives, I'm assuming together and separately. So what do you think is so important or so wonderful about singing and using your voice?
Well, for me, so a lot of it is expressing my emotions through singing. I have a lot of emotions. I've always been like the child that cried a lot in school, like didn't know how to express myself and didn't know how to express my emotions, but I've really found an outlet for that in singing, and also a creative outlet as well. So especially with singing and songwriting, it gives me the chance to express my emotions.
Yeah, I'd say it's the same thing for me, actually, but unlike Gracie, I was the kid who growing up did not express my emotions. So for me, it's been an outlet for me to actually share how I feel. And it was weird at first, because when I started putting a lot of emotion into my music and into my singing, it would just like pour out of me. Like I would start crying because I didn't know how to handle it. So it's kind of helped me to handle my emotions in that way as well.
So singing for you was like basically really, really vulnerable because you couldn't express yourself normally. And then in this way you were expressing yourself and you just felt like, so exposed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because before everything happened to me, which I'm sure we'll get into, I would sing and I wouldn't be emotional or vulnerable at all. And then when I started being vulnerable, like with everything, I would just like pour out, like I would just cry all the time.
Yeah. And let's dig into your stories a little bit. So I know with Gracie, can you describe to the audience what actually happened with you when you lost your voice?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll give you kind of the shortened version of it, but to make a long story short, I was in a really serious relationship when I was younger, and I thought I was going to get married at like 19, and I ended up not getting married, ended up going a little crazy, partied a little too much, had a little too much fun, drinking and partying, and I ended up damaging my vocal cords by shouting over loud music and just abusing my voice. And this was during college, and I ended up having to have vocal cord surgery, and I felt like I failed at the one thing that I loved most. But, it was like, you can only go up from here. So.
And for you, it would have been really hard too, because you were the very expressive twin.
Oh, yeah, totally. And I haven't always been this way. A lot of it has come out through my songwriting and also finding my voice through having surgery as well. Like after surgery, I decided to pivot my career, and instead of studying classical voice, I decided to get more into songwriting and pop singing and country singing and more contemporary singing, which is more me. So yeah, pretty much like having vocal cord surgery changed my life, because I had so much time to reflect inward and reflect on who I wanted to be after the surgery, and I completely changed. It was almost like a spiritual awakening during the vocal cord surgery and recovery, and I'm so grateful that it happened, because my life would not be the same without it. And I think everything happens for a reason, and it's just a part of my journey, and it's something I'm grateful for.
Yeah, totally. Do you feel like during that period of time, it made you a better listener as well?
I don't know about that. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I love the honesty. Maybe not.
Probably, yeah, because it made me more in touch with my emotions, actually, because I had more time to be connecting inward and not talking so much. So
yeah,
probably a better listener too.
Yeah, a better listener internally.
Yes, exactly, and to others too.
Yeah. And what about you, Annie? I know you've had major surgery as well.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how our lives parallel in that way. And it was only a few short years apart, actually. My surgery happened when I was 18 and Gracie's happened, you were 20, right?
Was 21? I 20? Yes, I think I was 20.
Okay, yeah. So it's weird how our lives kind of parallel each other in that way, but mine is completely different. I actually had an eating disorder. And when you have an eating disorder, I'll try to make my story short too because it's pretty long, but when you have an eating disorder, the lining of your stomach gets kind of fucked up. And I developed ulcers on my stomach from the eating disorder. And to make a long story short, one day the ulcers just ruptured and my stomach literally had a hole in it. And it was a medical emergency and I had to go to the hospital. At that point, actually, I had a lot of feelings of unworthiness that I wasn't even aware of. And I didn't even want to go to the hospital. So my sister, Gracie, actually made me go to the hospital. And she kind of saved my life, honestly, in that moment, because I probably would not have gone without her. So I was in the hospital, had to take 2 weeks to recover because I literally had a hole in my stomach. And now I have this big scar on my stomach. Really, the reason behind why I had an eating disorder is because I wanted to look perfect. I wanted to have a perfect stomach, perfect body, all that stuff. And now I have this huge scar, so it's kind of funny. But after all that happened, I had to recover both physically and mentally. And while I was recovering physically, I discovered weight training and weightlifting. Started weightlifting, and then I recovered mentally as well because I got mental strength from that.
Yeah. And what you do now, which I really love and connect with, is like you deliberately show your scar on social media now.
Thank you. Yeah, I used to be so ashamed of it, actually. For like 2 years, I was really embarrassed of it because I was like, okay, I wanted to have a perfect stomach for so long, and I thought it looked so ugly. But now I wear it proudly as like a battle wound, you know?
You do. With crop tops and everything. And I'm like, go her, like putting it out there. And just yeah, show me your tummy. Like embracing the like Annie just got up to like show us for the listeners. Yeah, like I love that you put it out there now. And like for me, I always was quite similar. I didn't have an eating disorder or anything, but I was very much a perfectionist growing up. And I used to listen to this song. I'm not a good singer, guys, just putting it out there, but It's Got to Be Perfect. It's got to be perfect. Do you guys know that song?
Oh, you got a nice tone in your voice.
You do have a nice tone.
Oh, really? Thank you. I don't think but I was obsessed with that song. And I used to think that everything had to be perfect because that was the way that I thought I could get love, right? Subconsciously. And so perfectionism was always something that I strived for. And then it wasn't until probably the last 5 years that I realized it's just completely, utterly unattainable. And the people that I am attracted to most, like platonically, of course, well, I suppose romantically too, are the ones that just own the fact that they're not perfect. And that's what makes them beautiful. Like, that's what I really, really like.
Yeah, I love that.
So with your business, Annie, so all of that background and history, that's what got you into what you're doing now, isn't it? But you come from a different perspective. You come from a place of self-love, not hating oneself to get better and feel healthier and be skinnier and all that sort of stuff, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So I work with singers just because I love people in the arts. Like, they're my people. We're all kind of weird. Gracie can attest to that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you can tell. We're all kind of weird. I love working with singers, but I found that a lot of times singers want to look a certain way on stage. And a lot of times, at least in myself and my clients' experience, starve themselves to look a certain way or restrict themselves to look a certain way. So my thing is both the science and the mindset, because the science supports it, being able to eat what you want without guilt or shame, and being able to work out in a way that makes you feel strong so that you're not restricting, but you still get to have a hot bod. Like, you get to have it all. You get to have a hot bod and all the food you want. And you don't hate yourself into it. You love yourself into your body.
Yeah, I love that. So your business and brand messaging is a lot different to, I find, a lot of people's out there, where it's like it's coming from a place of, like wanting to be super skinny, super hot, be perfect, all this sort of stuff. But the intention behind it is because it's like from a self-hatred place as opposed to like a self-love place. Like they're not doing it, I find, and of course everyone's different, so this isn't painting everyone with the same brush, but like I see a lot of people out there that are, trying to help people, but it's trying to help people when they hate themselves, as opposed to kind of going, I know that I need to eat this or work out or whatever because I love myself and I want to look after myself and preserve myself too for the future.
Yeah, it actually really bothered me because when I first started my business, I had a couple mentors tell me like, oh, like go on their pain points, like all of this stuff. And I'm just kind of against that, because going on their pain points would be talking about how they want a hot body and how they want to be a certain size and how they want to be skinny. And like, while that's great and while that sells in the first place, like there's so much more underneath it. And when people sign on to work with me, I want them to know that they're going through like a transformational, full self change, not just their body,
Yeah, totally. I think the pain points, like, it's a tricky one. Like, I think it's more about, because people want to feel a certain way. That's why they're going after all these things. They want to feel good about themselves. They want to feel sexy, hot, confident, whatever it is. And the pain points can be useful, but I think if you're coming from a place of, like good intentions and not bad intentions and playing on those, I think that's really important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you can totally tell in someone's marketing if they're just like trying to target people to not like themselves so they'll buy their product. Like, I don't know if you know those, like, they have those tummy trainers. Now they have like a face trainer for like your like under chin flab or whatever. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I have not seen that. Wow, does that even work? Like, what?
I have no idea.
That's crazy. Oh my goodness. All right, cool. So what I wanted to ask you guys as well was, so Gracie, you were more the expressive one. Annie, you were more the quiet one, I guess, when you talk about identical twins.
Yeah, I wouldn't say if I'm quiet.
I wouldn't call Annie quiet.
Not expressive? Is that what you mean? Like with your emotions?
I would say that we're very similar, just in different ways. It's weird when you're an identical twin. It's like you're so similar but different. So I would say that Annie, the best way I can describe it, and Annie, you tell me if you agree with this. I would say Annie throughout her life has had more, she's been more, not saying that she's masculine, but she's been more in touch with her masculine energy than I have. And I've been more in touch with my feminine energy.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, it's been easier for me to be creative and expressive and emotional
and fun
and crazy and silly and wild, hence how I damaged my vocal cords by a little too much partying. Yeah. That's been me my whole life. Just kind of like, I'm an Enneagram 7. I'm like scattered all over the place. Life of the party.
You're 7 wing 8. I'm an 8 wing 7.
Yeah. So we're so similar. So I would say that. So I'm more in touch with, creativity. I write songs. I have a lot of emotions. I feel my emotions so deeply. I practice yoga. I'm a yoga instructor. Where Annie, she's very business oriented. Like, she really understands how to run a business. She's so goal oriented. She's like boss lady, boss woman, and just like badass.
And like, I don't know, Gracie, you probably can tell me whether this is on right, but like, I don't take anything personally, like at all. Like, things kind of just like roll off my back. And I wouldn't say I'm not fun, but I'd say like I'm probably more serious, I guess, in comparison, but we're both weirdos.
We're both so weird, especially when we're together. Like, right now you're getting the best.
Bounce off each other.
Yeah, but usually like when we're in a room, like with a group of people, I'm usually the one that's acting a little crazy. Yeah. This is Gracie. For the listener.
Crazy Gracie.
Crazy Gracie. I've actually gotten that so much.
Really?
Yeah. My favorite co-writer and I call each other, he's big cray cray and I'm little cray cray. We're both crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's weird because we're so similar and people always want to know differences, and the differences are so subtle,
Yeah, it's like nothing.
But our strength, we're like yin and yang. Like, our strengths and weaknesses balance each other out.
Yeah, each other too, because you guys look incredibly, like, obviously you're identical twins, you look incredibly similar. I can tell you apart though, I'm sure you've heard that before. And your voices, like, because for the listeners, we've been messaging back and forth for a bit with audio messages, and I can only just hear the difference between both of your tones. It's harder to tell on this podcast right now as opposed to the Facebook messaging audio feature. So how do you guys, being identical twins and growing up, do you guys feel like, you know, I know a lot of twins feel so like they've got that unbelievable connection and they're so together, but having their own identity can be quite tricky. But you guys seem like you actually do have your own identities. And even though you're connected, you're not the same person in every respect.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, a lot of our journey to get to where we are today was to be our own people, like to identify ourselves. Like I am Gracie and she's Annie. Because growing up, I think both of us struggled with kind of like comparing ourselves to the other, and you know,
other people always compare us, you know?
Yeah. And so like a lot of the things that we've struggled with are because we've dealt with comparing ourselves to each other and because other people have compared us. And it's been a journey for both of us, I think, to find our individuality. But I feel very myself right now, and I can't speak for Annie, but we've been talking about it, and I know that she probably feels a lot like herself right now too. And it's, you know, we've just kind of grown into ourselves. But it's definitely been difficult. Like, for example, when I started college, I didn't really want to go into classical singing, which is what Annie studied. And it's also somewhat what I ended up getting a degree in. My degree is kind of I ended up getting a general music degree with a focus on voice and composition. Towards the end of the degree, I changed the entire degree program, did my own thing. I was like the weirdo in the school, and I ended up like singing my own songs for a concert at the end of the year when everyone else was singing opera arias.
Awesome, doing your own thing.
Yeah, thank you. So, you know, I at first, like, I thought I had to study classical singing because Annie was doing it, and I was like, well, if Annie's doing it, I have to do it. And I ended up just finding my own way and my own path, and, you know, moving to Nashville and basically living the dream.
Love it.
And from my perspective, it was weird growing up because part of the reason that I had my eating disorder, it was really fueled by this idea like, okay, we're twins, we need to look exactly the same. So that means weighing the same. Even though I was literally 2 inches, I'm 2 inches taller than you, right, Gracie? Like
I would say, yeah, 2 inches.
I don't know. So
Annie likes to wear higher heels too.
Glam fit diva, yo. But I've always been heavier than her, like at least 5-10 pounds heavier, which makes sense when you're taller. And I think growing up, I always was insecure about that because I felt like we had to be exactly the same because we were twins. But now it's like, I don't care at all. I don't care what I weigh. I don't care what I weigh in relation to her. I don't care what I weigh in relation to anyone, honestly. There was even, I guess, not an incident, I don't know what to call it, recently where Gracie ordered like a sweatsuit, like loungewear for coronavirus. And I ordered the same one in the same size and it didn't fit me, or like it fit me a little differently. And probably past me would have been like, it has to fit me exactly the same because we're twins. But now I'm at a place where, you know, I don't compare myself to her because I feel so aligned within myself and so confident in myself that no one else's opinion matters. What anyone else does doesn't really matter to me, you know? So it's been a journey to get there.
How did you both do that? So growing up, you know, and of course people on the outside are like, oh, they're identical twins, they must be the same, or they're very, very similar. And I guess they would push that onto you guys. So how, along your journeys, how did you find your own voice? How did you become your own people? Like, what was the process of that?
I would say, well, we went to different colleges too. So we both followed our hearts for college. So Annie ended up she went to school away. Can I say where you going to call it? Where you went?
Yeah, I don't care.
Oh, okay, cool. I wasn't sure. So Annie went
Watch
to
out for the
University of
stalkers.
Michigan. Right? All the stalkers.
All the stalkers.
So Annie went to University of Michigan, which is about 45 minutes from. Oh no, we're getting into the weirdos. So Annie's school was about 45 minutes from my parents' house, and then I ended up staying home for college and went to the school like 10 minutes from my parents' house. So we separated for college, and I think that was really, really great for us because we had the opportunity to make our own friends, find our own individuality, study what we wanted to study. I was in a sorority in college and, you know, got all my social craziness out then. And just like, I don't know, it was good for us to be separate and just do our own thing. Annie was studying more classical music and opera and kind of more an intensive like opera type degree, where I studied like a general music degree, and I was really focused on just kind of growing, honestly. I mean, we both grew a ton in college, but I wasn't ready to go away to college. I wasn't ready to leave home. And, you know, I was still, like I said earlier, I'm I've always been like kind of emotional, and I just wasn't ready to leave my parents yet. So I stayed home for college, and I think it was great for us to be separate and kind of grow on our own.
Yeah, I agree. And I know that you're a relationship coach before. It's kind of like, you know, when you're in a relationship with someone and you have to like kind of factor them into all of your life decisions. That's kind of how I felt with Gracie growing up, that like we just had to be aligned with every single thing. But then when we went to college, we went to separate colleges, I felt like I could be my own person and I didn't have to like factor another person into all of my choices.
Yeah. And also you wouldn't have all the same friends or people from your upbringing. You know what I mean? Like these people wouldn't have known you. You go to different universities, you meet an entirely new, different crowd, and they don't know about your twin and compare you subconsciously or consciously, right? Like they're not there, so they can't do that.
Yeah. Because, it used to really hurt me growing up when someone would like Gracie better or someone would like me better. It used to really bother me, but now it's like, I don't really care because I know we're just different flavors, you know?
Exactly. Well, and now we know, like, if there's something that resonates within one of us that resonates in the other person, that's why. It's because we're different. But, I mean, who even cares about that anyways? Like, now that we've gotten older, we don't care as much. Both of us, I think, well, I know, we don't care what other people think about us anymore. Like, I don't care if somebody's like, Gracie is this, 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 and this, and Annie's this, 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 and this. We're just like, whatever. Like, whoever's saying that, they don't know us. You know, if someone wants to compare us. Yeah. So if somebody wants to compare us, like, go ahead. We don't care. Like, we know who we are at this point, and we're both very confident with who we are. And, you know, I feel like we're both so strong that nothing can break us at this point. And, you know.
Yeah. Self-awareness, yo.
Yeah. And a lot of it too, I want to just mention this. So Annie's issues, it's interesting because Annie's issues with her eating disorder were because some of it was because of comparing herself to me. Some of my issues with singing were comparing myself to Annie because I thought that I had to sing classical music, but I didn't really like, at one point I didn't sing properly and I wasn't as committed to it, but like I tried so hard and wanted so badly to be like Annie and I wasn't, you know? So it's really interesting the way that everything has kind of panned out for our lives, but I think it happened exactly the way that it was meant to, and we're both in a really awesome place right now with ourselves. And
we were saying that before we pressed record, and you're like, both of you are like, we're so living in our purpose right now. Life is great. So tell me more about that. How are you guys living more in your purpose?
You go first.
So I just feel, I guess the word would be in alignment. Like I just feel very aligned. I used to be, like I said, I wasn't emotionally aware growing up. Like I didn't even display my emotions. I was the kind of person that I wouldn't cry publicly. I remember when I was actually watching a show, Gilmore Girls, in college. And I remember when it ended, I was crying. And Gracie walked in on me when the show ended. And I was just crying like privately by myself. And I was so embarrassed that I was crying when this show ended. And it was like I used to just cry privately and be so embarrassed to display emotions in front of anyone else. But now, you know, I'm at the point where I'm super comfortable with my emotions. It's just like I'll cry any moment that I feel like I need to cry. I'll tell people how I feel. I use the words I feel. And it's just a complete 180 from how I was growing up because I used to just completely push everything down. I do meditation practice every single day, 10 minutes on the Calm app. I love it. Gracie showed it to me, actually. I go to therapy once a week. So I talk out my emotions with a therapist. I have a business coach, just like really into personal development and discovering parts of myself and even things with Gracie, like, so Gracie's vegan. And like, if I ever consider going vegan or consider like eating a lot of meat, I'll say like, why am I considering this? Am I considering going vegan because Gracie's vegan or am I considering it because I want to do it? Or like, do I eat a lot of meat because I want to purposely be opposite of her? Or am I doing it because it supports my philosophies around like weight training? You know what I mean? So just like constantly asking questions and like, why am I this way? What's my motivation behind this? Is this something that's learned or is this something that's coming from my authentic self?
Yes, I love that. So you're asking yourself the important questions to be able to get more in tune with your intuition and not be like, going down the subconscious route of trying to be similar to your twin, but like what feels right for you.
Yeah, the ego's dying. The ego's been dying a slow death the past like 3 years since entrepreneurship started.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I relate to your story a little bit too, Annie, because, well, firstly, Gracie, I was a vegan. I'm now vegetarian, but I'm wanting to get back up onto the vegan wagon. bandwagon. Yeah. And then Annie, I was similar to you. So as a kid, I was very bad at expressing my emotions. I felt like I always had to be strong for everyone else.
Yes.
I thought emotions were something that were weak, that made you weak. Now it's very different. Now I just see emotions as like, I imagine like a toolbox of emotions, and sometimes I just pick up, one of the crayons, and that's more me that day or in that moment. So like if I need to cry, I'll get it out. Like I'm much more comfortable sitting with whatever emotion I'm feeling, because I just know that it's part of the human experience, and suppressing yourself doesn't actually get you anywhere. It comes out eventually, just not in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, it's funny. Today, my mom said something that kind of upset me, and I started crying. And my dad said to me, like, don't cry. Like, that you don't need to cry over this. And I actually said to him today, I said, well, crying doesn't make me weak. It actually makes me stronger because I'm being honest about how I'm feeling.
Yeah. And if you don't, like, it stays inside. So it energetically, like, it can actually have a reaction within the body. If you're not, like, if you suppress it, it's actually toxic for the body. So I was the same thing growing up. When my friends cried or whatever, I was like, don't cry, because it meant that something was wrong. But it actually the opposite. It's a release. Like, it's actually getting it out. And I remember, Annie, you actually cried on the phone. Remember when we had that coaching consult last year? And I think I encouraged you to keep crying. I was like, yeah, let it out. Like, it's supposed to be a release. Like, if you keep it trapped inside, it's not going to get you anywhere. And I've actually had a couple of people that I've jumped on initial consults with. I remember I had one lady, I think it was the end of last year or the start of this year, literally jumped on the phone. I was like, hey, how you going? And she just lost it. She just bawled her eyes out. And I'm thinking, whoa, I don't know what's happened. And she's like, I haven't cried for a year. She's like, I wasn't wanting to cry. I didn't want to get on the phone and cry to anyone, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, just let it out, keep it going. And then afterwards she was like, I'm so glad you just let me cry, because everyone's always like saving her, patting her on the back, going, it's going to be okay, don't worry, don't cry, and feeding into that suppression when actually, you need to express it and let it out.
Yeah. Hey, trapped emotion in the body. I had ulcers, so.
Yeah. So do you think that came from a place of suppressing yourself? Do you think maybe?
Absolutely. It was like a combination, I think, of both the spiritual and the practical, right? So I always say, like, even my business is a combination of mindset and strategy. And I think that the way the ulcers formed was, one, trapped emotion in the body, yes, but also because, like, when you think about the science behind it, I had no food in my stomach, so the acid had nothing to absorb, so then it caused ulcers. So I think it's both.
Yeah, I can understand that. So both of you guys are singers. So what does singing mean to you guys? Like, why is it important? Have you had people that you've coached before, or like that have been uncomfortable with singing and being vulnerable and exposed through that means?
Oh, totally. So part of what I do is I actually have my own business as well. It's called Mindful Singing. And Annie and I are so similar, but I'm a yoga instructor and Annie is personal trainer. And so a lot of what I teach my students is to sing with mindfulness, because a lot of my surgery and what caused it was clenching my throat and clenching my vocal cords when I would sing, and just kind of like what we're talking about, not letting out emotions. Although for most of my life, I've been fairly emotionally vulnerable, but it was just when I didn't know how to control my anxiety, which was manifesting itself as anger. And sometimes that has a physical reaction in the body, which for me was clenching my throat. So a lot of what I teach my students is to feel into the body when they're singing, and to let themselves feel their emotions and to feel what they're singing about too. And the more that you relax the body, the better that you can sing, because your body is your instrument. And Annie and I both focus on this a lot with our work, about how your body is your instrument. And I think Annie kind of does more of the technical stuff with that, and emotional too. But for me, when I'm working with my students, we focus a lot on meditation and breathing and getting in the right mindset to sing.
Is that your dog in the background?
It is. Yeah, he's pretty mad. His name is Toby Keith.
It's cute. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Like, it is true, isn't it? Like, I love how you think of your body as being your instrument, and it's your personal instrument too, because no one else has got the same type of one. It's very unique to you. And even actually another thing is, identical twins like yourselves, you don't have the same fingerprints. They're similar, but they're still different, even though you share the same DNA. Isn't that fascinating?
Totally. It's so fascinating. And yeah, and we don't even have, like, our voices are kind of similar, but you can train with vocal training, you can train your voice to be anyway. Like, I think I naturally have kind of a deeper tone to my voice. Well, sometimes it depends on what we're singing, but when we were younger, Annie usually took like the higher harmonies for songs. So as we've evolved and gotten older, Annie's gotten into more higher things where I kind of stick to more like soulful, like belty, low, like little mid-range type Adele, Lady Gaga type music, where Annie loves Mariah Carey and she loves to sing like opera arias with coloratura, which is like really high whistly tone things at the top.
Yeah.
So
I sing off the piano.
Yeah. And so a lot of that though, like, is because of what we've chosen to focus on during our training. So it's really interesting how we've kind of evolved similarly but differently.
Well, yeah, like tone is so important too, because like, I think in terms of communication, I think like your mannerisms and your body stuff is like 55% of communication. Mm-hmm. Words is only 7%. So words actually means the least, which is quite interesting, but tone is like 38%. Oh. So like your pitch, your speed, your volume, the energy behind your voice or your tone, like I think that's really quite fascinating. That's the second biggest thing, not just the words. So I was like, wow, that's quite incredible, really.
That is cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, and 55% physiology, 38% tone and 7% words. I would have thought words would be more, but apparently not.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I feel like that's what you can really tell in someone's like marketing online, what their intention is, because you can just tell by their tone of voice, even their tone in writing, like you can tell people's tone in writing as well.
Yeah, it's the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I totally agree. So let's touch a bit more on that then, Annie, now that we're going down this road. So when you look at people online and the content creation that they put out, what sort of energy do you pick up on? What sort of energy are you attracted to? What sort of energy do you think you provide through your own content as well?
Okay, so when I first started my business, I had a lot of people tell me to post every single day. And I know Gracie hates this too. And I hated posting every single day because I'm like, some days I don't feel inspired. Some days it feels forced. So I really learned to come from a place that's not forced, like where I actually am feeling inspired and I'm not like resisting what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean? And also I feel like when I'm reading something, I want it to be coming from a place of complete service, from a place of complete self-love or complete unconditional love, like you have to be confident in what you're offering enough to actually pitch it, but then you also have to come from complete service. And I feel like you can't have one without the other,
Yeah. And you can tell when someone's really like grabby and attached and fearful mm-hmm. and like that scarcity and that icky feeling behind people's content. Sometimes you can really sense that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always try to lead from a place of unconditional love because that's really one of the main messages behind what I do. Like I want in both fitness and business coaching, I want people to love their bodies and change their bodies from a place of unconditional love, that they want to maybe lose weight so that they have a healthier life, not lose weight so that they look a certain way. Although that is important. If looking a certain way would give them the confidence they need, that's one angle. But if it's to impress someone else, that's completely different. And on the business coaching side, like I want people to start businesses so that they can change the world and serve people, not just to serve themselves.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I really love that. And Gracie, when it comes to songwriting, how important is choosing different words and language? Like when you songwrite, does it come really easily, or is it like, what's your energy behind songwriting?
Oh, it's so important. So for me, I'm more of a melody person. So I have people here that I collaborate with and they help me with my words because words are what I struggle with actually with songwriting. I'm good with general themes, but I can't narrow down my words by myself. I need someone to help me understand it. But when I start with a melody, I start with a melody that feels like what I'm going to be singing about, if that makes sense. Yeah. In music, it's called text painting, where the music sounds like the words. But for me, it's all about vulnerability, really, with songwriting. So everything that I write about is something that I've experienced. Every single that I'm going to be coming out with, which, shameless plug, I'm coming out with a single probably in a couple months.
Yeah.
Which I'm so excited about. I'm so pumped. I've been working on it during this whole quarantine thing. So I'm coming out with that soon. But a lot of what I sing about is like real experiences and stuff that I've been through. And so it's so important to use the right words with what you're singing about, because there's different ways of saying things. Like, for example, like in pop music, you could say, like if a guy saw a girl cheating or knew a girl was cheating, he would say like, she's not my baby or something, right? In country music, it would be, that ain't my truck in her driveway. You know? Like, it's just, there's different ways of saying things, right? And it depends on who it's coming from, how you say something. So that's one of the things I love about songwriting, is just different ways of saying, getting an emotion across, because humans are so complex and there's so many different ways of expressing yourself and understanding things. And the more that I get to understand myself and my emotions, the more I can help other people understand their emotions. And it's my goal with my songs and singing and just being an artist to be vulnerable, so that other people have the freedom and, I guess, permission to be authentic with the way that they want to feel and the way that they're expressing their emotions. And I sing about a lot of things that some people might find controversial, but I do it because I give permission for other people to do it. Like, for example, my song that's coming out, which I think it's going to be either my first single or my second single, is called Attention. And it is about a time in my life where I struggled with wanting guys' attention all the time. Mm-hmm. And I say in the song, like,
maybe it'd be nice to live a life without drama, but I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I say that's one of the lines. Maybe it'd be nice to live a life without drama, but I wouldn't know. And then other line, it's Annie's favorite line. And there's another line in the song that's like, maybe something's hurting or missing that keeps me searching for what I can't seem to find within, because I can't resist attention. And it's just a very vulnerable, open song about it. So my goal in writing music is to help other people know that it's okay to have these deep emotions, because I think somewhat with Annie and my childhood, it's not our parents' fault, but you know, the way that they were raised is very old school, and it's like, keep your emotions in, don't talk about certain things, keep this certain image. And I've always been a little bit more of a rebel, and I've kind of challenged those beliefs, which is why I am the way that I am. And Annie's kind of stuck more to the rules, I think, when we were younger with like.
Yeah, when we were younger, definitely. But now I'm full force rebellion, baby.
Exactly, totally. So, but that has impacted a lot of why I do what I do, because I've wanted to help other people know that it's okay to feel a certain way and express yourself, and that it's normal to feel this way, all that. So that's why I do it.
Yeah, I love that. Two things. When the single comes out, let me know. I'll listen to it. And I could even add it to the end of this podcast episode. Right?
Cool.
If I'm allowed to.
Yeah, for sure.
The second thing as well is, like, it's funny because I came from a similar background where, like, I came from a very religious background where you had to conform and be a certain way. And I found the same thing. I thought I had to be a good girl and always do the right thing and follow the rules and all sort of stuff. But as I've gotten older, as you guys are talking about becoming a rebel, I totally get that, because when you realize that that it's okay and it's safe to be a bit of a rebel, then it feels so much more empowering and awesome to be able to step into that, because you know that like the world's not going to fall down around you, and it's safe and okay to express yourself and be a bit of a rebel and not do what everyone else is doing and do what feels right for you. I think that's actually a really important message.
Totally. Thank you. Yeah, I love that. And that is something that I've learned a lot as I've gotten older, that it's okay to just be you. Like, you don't have to worry about what other people expect from you. Just do what you want to do. And I think Annie and I are a good example of that, because, you know, you would think that as identical twins we'd be doing the same thing, but we've both kind of beautifully gone in our own separate direction. And I know I'm so proud of Annie and what she's done. And, you know, I'm grateful for the journey that I've been on to and where I've gotten through it. And it's just it's all the beauty of life, man. I don't know what to tell you. Just the way it is.
I'm so proud of you too.
Oh, thanks.
That's
Love
so
you.
Sweet. You guys are so lovely. I love that. And also just touching on, like, you know, how you were talking about before, where you have like more of a feeling or a theme and then the words come to you after that. I'm a bit the same. Like, I'm someone that has to kind of process the emotion of something and then the words come. And even though like words are only 7% of communication, I've always been someone that's loved words. Like, I excelled at English at school. I loved it. It's probably weird to talk about this, but I love, like, you know, when you're writing something or even a post, Annie, and then you like click write to get the thesaurus in your Word doc. Like, I love seeing the alternative terms that you could use instead. Do you know what I mean? I love quotes. Like, I'm all about the words. Like, I love it, you know. And when you first have the courage to express yourself and not suppress, and then actually choose the right words, like, it's amazing what can happen from that, because it's also important. It all links. Yeah.
Yeah, it is weird too, because a lot of what I post on social media is pretty controversial.
Really? How so?
So there's kind of two schools of thought in the diet culture and diet industry. So it's either like we're for diet culture, like we have this mindset of we're going to shrink ourselves to look hot, that sort of thing. that's a subconscious messaging. I don't think people are aware of it. And then the other way is like super fat positive, which is where people like are really against any sort of weight loss. And I make posts all the time where I'm like, I'm anti-diet culture, but I'm not anti-weight loss, because I think that you can do weight loss from a place of self-love, and that's what I'm trying to teach people. But I have gotten a lot of hate about it from the people on the other opposite end of the spectrum, telling me that like I am like fat shaming people, and then I'm like in diet culture and all that stuff. So definitely gotten hate, and it is hard sometimes to resist all that,
That's really interesting, because I've got my own views on it too. So for example, I'm not pro diet culture. I'm not pro the whole like, get the magic pill that's not sustainable and, that sort of stuff. I'm also not pro, like I'm a registered nurse and midwife, right? So I work in healthcare, and I'm not pro, I'm not pro obesity either. So there's a lot of, and I say this respectfully and I don't mean to offend anyone, this is just my personal opinion. There's a lot of people online that are promoting obesity, right? So you see like these, really large, really overweight, obese women who are, and it's all great if they feel wonderful about themselves and if they feel confident and they love who they are, fantastic, But at the same time, I don't think we should necessarily be promoting that lifestyle or way of life either. I think it needs to be a balance, in the middle. I think it should be healthy driven. And fat shaming is a big thing at the moment, and that's not what I'm trying to do here. But I think, coming from healthcare, I think health should be the number one thing. And if that can come from a resourceful self-love place, that's the best driver. But I do see a lot of people out there saying that they're not ashamed to be morbidly obese. And that's great for them if that's the case. But I also don't really believe that they should be promoting other people to be okay with that and not do anything about it. Like, because we know obesity leads to diabetes, cardiovascular disease, like a whole array of health issues that are preventable and are burdening the health system. So there's that. And then there's also the diet culture where it's like everyone just wanting their quick fixes. Like you've got to really ask yourself, where is that coming from? Why do you just want a quick fix? And are you doing it because you hate how you feel and look, or are you doing it because you just want to live longer and you want to have a better quality of life and you want to be around for when you have kids or be more productive, have more energy at work? Like, I think that's a really important thing too.
Yeah. I think even the people that are saying that like they, like you said, I forget exactly what you said, but like kind of promoting like an unhealthier lifestyle, regardless of what they look like people that are like super, super fat positive and they're not acknowledging that like the behaviors that they're doing might not actually be leading to their overall health. I think that that's not coming from a place of self-love. I think it depends on the intention behind it, because some people are really, really fat positive just to be rebellious.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of ego speaking there. I think it's a lot of like, well, I want to be accepted, so I'm going to like force this on you instead of coming from a place of love,
Yeah, I think it's also because, and I could be wrong in saying this, but I think a lot of people, if they're morbidly obese and they're promoting that lifestyle, I feel like they're trying to get in before they can be attacked. It's kind of like, I'm just going to accept this about myself and you can't attack me because I'm going to be pro it, or I'm going to be promoting this and screw you if you don't like it sort of thing. I think, there's lots of different reasons why people do what they do.
Yeah, it's an overcorrection too, I would say. Like, they think that they have to be a certain way, so they rebel completely in the opposite direction. I think that's with a lot of things in life. I mean,
definitely.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with like being obese and saying like, I love myself, like whatever, like that's fine. But I think it becomes an issue when they say like, well, any sort of dieting is bad, any sort of weight loss is bad, like, and they take it, for example, I had a couple people that took my post about weight loss personally, saying like, you shouldn't tell people that they can lose weight, like that sort of thing. And it's like, okay, what are you making this mean about you personally? You know what I mean? I think that's the ego. Yeah, when someone makes something that's like not even about them, like about them personally, then you can tell that like that's their ego. You kind of touch like a sore spot on them.
Yeah, it's definitely triggered them. And so they've reached out and gone, you can't do this, but actually like you're a mirror to them. So they've had an issue with that and they've reached out to try and, shame you or conform you, because that's what it's all about. And it's easier for that rather than them reflecting and going, okay, cool. Have I really tried everything? Or am I just wanting to defend myself and pretend like I have? And the other thing that you touched on there as well is like being vulnerable and putting your stuff out there online for anyone and everyone to see, like, because anyone can come across your stuff. It is exposing, and it does make you feel very vulnerable. And if you're a public figure or you're putting yourself out there, you sell a service or a product and you promote it online, like just be prepared, because there will come a day where you probably will have people that disagree with you or can't relate to it, or it triggers them. And that's okay. That's all just part of the journey. Like, I'd be very surprised if anyone that's been super successful or famous or whatever out there hasn't been attacked in some regard to something that they've done, you know?
Oh, totally. I was going to say, I do that a lot with my songwriting too. Like, I feel like when I release some of my stuff, there are going to be people that don't like it, but it's kind of somewhat my goal to trigger people, because it's like I want them to think differently about things and think about how they're approaching life. And, you know, my goal is to help people become more elevated and raise the collective consciousness. And what I mean by that is get people closer to their purpose. And the way that you do that is by becoming more emotionally vulnerable and aligned and connected to yourself. And so I think sometimes triggering people is good.
Yeah.
So.
I got triggered recently by my own business coach, and we were talking about it after, and I'm like, yes, please keep triggering me, because that's where the growth is. You know,
Totally.
Some people are ignorant and they just they're triggered and they attack someone. But the ones that really have the growth are the ones that sit there and go, okay, cool, what can I learn from this? Why did this upset me so much? Where is this coming from? What's happened in the past that has made me feel so upset about this issue? And why am I blaming it on this stranger online, which might be us or, you know, someone else that's listening to this? And you can't let that sort of stuff just stop you from speaking your truth through your business, through your messaging, through your songs. Like, you know, sing your truth, because other people will relate to it at the end of the day. You're not everyone's cup of tea, not everyone's going to get it, and that's okay. But by you not speaking your truth or singing your truth or holding yourself back, or, you know, letting that fear and scarcity pop in because you're scared of being judged, like, it's just going to cap you.
Totally. And honestly, I think that's the thing that's changed for me and has maybe transformed right now during this weird time being in lockdown for coronavirus, is I've been connecting more to my emotions and writing more songs and just evolving during this, because I've been feeling more connected to myself by facing some of these emotions and things that I didn't face before. And I think maybe a lot of people are going through that. I can't speak for everybody, but I know that Annie and I have both been going through that, and a few of my friends that I have talked to are going through the same thing. So really, I think a lot of people are shifting right now too.
I think it's probably like, in a horrible situation, this is probably the silver lining, you know, because I've been the same way. I've done a lot of internal reflecting, still doing it. You know, it's changed my life. It's changed the course of where my life was going and my clients, and you know, the coaching world, and even in people in my, you know, friendship groups and my team, like, people are shifting. It's got some sort of fundamental thing that's kind of happening now.
Totally. Yeah. People are becoming more connected to themselves by shutting out the outside world. We connect inward. And that's honestly, it's what I went through during my vocal cord surgery and what Annie went through during her stomach surgery as well.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that. I was like, this is like the second time you've had to go internal. Do you know what I mean? Because of factors.
Totally. Oh yeah. And it's been easy for me because I'm like, this ain't my first rodeo, y'all.
Same. And it's like, we have to go inward because there's no more distractions. Because I think that it kind of comes down to like the ego and the authentic self, you know, like, what is the outside world telling me? Like, but who am I, like, truly within? You know what I mean? And I feel like this gives us an opportunity to really go within and like really become more conscious and become more aware of who we are without all of the outside conditioning, all the extra noise, all the distractions, all that stuff.
Yeah. In some ways it's made life a bit quieter. Like, not when you turn the news on, of course, but, you know, you can't run away from things. You can't distract yourself too much because there's not really many places to go.
Yeah, you got to face all of your deep emotions. And I think for me, it's been really healing to go through this. And in every way in my life, I know we touched on this a bit earlier, but I don't know if I ever actually answered the question. In a way, my life has elevated because I've been connecting inward more. And I've been doing so many more things with my music and recording singles and writing more, and got asked to do some demos for some really awesome people that are, you know, pretty big music artists. So that's been so cool. And
amazing.
It honestly, I thank you. And I don't think it would have happened if I would not have connected to myself this much.
So tell the audience, how do you connect to yourself? Like, because it's individual to everyone, but how have you done that? Because I know some people might be sitting here and listening to this and going, well, that's great, but how do I do that for myself? So if you could give some tips or some advice, that would be really helpful.
Totally. So I meditate every day. That is the thing that has helped me the most. Some days are way harder than others to meditate, but those are the days where you need more meditation. I read a quote once that said, if you don't have time to meditate for 10 minutes a day, you have to meditate for an hour a day. And it's so true. I told Annie that when she first started meditating, and she told me she didn't have time. I was like, well, you better start then. But meditation, honestly, having a clean space, because I'm an Enneagram 7, my brain is very scattered. So if I have a cluttered environment, my brain is cluttered. Meditation, clean space, taking time really to get creative and write every day has helped me to connect to myself, even if it's just journaling, but usually it's in the form of songwriting or writing a melody. And just in general, taking time for myself, being outside. I've been spending so much time in nature. I went camping with my roommate, and it was the most transformational weekend ever because we were just in nature the whole weekend. And I really think that's it. Just meditation, being in nature, and writing, connecting to your emotions somehow is the gist of it.
Connecting to your emotions and changing your environment is the two things that I've taken away from that, which is really cool.
Yeah, totally.
Just being. What about you, Annie? Have you got any advice on that?
Yeah, for me, it's taking care of like your physical, mental, and emotional health first. So every morning I get into alignment before I talk to anyone, because I find that like jumping on social media, getting on your phone, looking at all your text messages, like it just fills your head with noise and fills your head with anxiety. So what I like to do first thing in the morning is wake up, do my morning routine, which includes meditation, maybe like light exercise. And then part of my morning routine is literally just making breakfast and watching Shark Tank for like an hour and just like taking care of myself and like letting myself relax so that when I go into the day, I'm not going from like this scattered, stressed out place. I'm coming truly from a place of unconditional love because I've already poured into myself for the day. Then I'm able to pour into others. And then later if I notice, and noticing my emotions has gotten a lot easier because of meditation and all these mindfulness practices I'm doing. But if I notice I get stressed out, then I stop and I ask myself like, okay, what is causing this emotion? Sometimes I'll write it down. Sometimes I'll call Gracie and just word vomit at her. She'll word vomit at me. Yep. Like sometimes, you just have to figure out exactly what is causing you to feel out of alignment. But for me, it's truly like getting into alignment, taking care of your physical, mental, and emotional health first, pouring into your own cup so that you can then pour into others and give others unconditional love.
Yes, I love that. You've both provided such wonderful insights there. And they're both so different in a sense as well. Like it all comes down to emotion is what I'm seeing, but also like doing things for yourself to support yourself as well. And being very intentional. That's the other thing, being so intentional with what you're deciding to do.
Yes, mindfulness and being intentional is so important. Another thing that I didn't mention is I do yoga every day too, at least 5 minutes. Like even if it's just doing one sun salutation, just kind of getting into my body first thing in the morning.
Connecting once again.
Yeah, totally.
So before we wind up, I've got 2 questions for you guys. So you mentioned the Enneagram. So Gracie, you're an Enneagram 7 with an 8 wing. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And Annie, you're an Enneagram 8 with a wing 7. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys know what your Myers-Briggs personality type is?
Yeah. So I am an ENFP.
And then I'm an ENTJ.
Wow. Okay. So the first 2 letters are similar, but the last 2 are different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're both extroverted and we're both, intuitive. What does the N stand for? Intuitive? Yeah. Intuitive. But then I'm like we were saying earlier, back to what we were talking about before, I'm, I guess, more feminine energy, more creative brained. Not saying that Annie's not feminine or creative, but Annie has more masculine energy, more logical brained than I am. And so that's what the T and the F are in the Myers-Briggs. And then J, the people that are J are more like organized and structured, like Annie. And then P is a little bit more wacky and all over the place, like weirdo you're talking to.
I love it. And do you know what your human design is?
Yeah. So we're both manifesting generators.
Yep.
No way. That's so cool.
No way. Cool.
Yeah. I just found out literally, it's very bizarre because I did a interview on human design. I think it's like episode 4 or 5, which was ages ago now. And I went to go do it and I couldn't find my result. It was actually quite complicated to find the type. So I just kind of was like, meh, whatever. And then it wasn't until about a week or 2 ago that it came up again somehow. And oh, that's right, a girlfriend asked me and I looked it up and she showed me how to actually find it. And then it turns out I'm a manifesting generator. And I was like, this makes a lot of sense, and
makes
with the
so much sense.
Do you guys have that sacral center thing?
Yes.
Yeah, the authority.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I was saying with getting into alignment as well. It makes it a lot easier to connect with that. Like when you have all the noise cleared away, you're able to actually feel into like, does this feel good to me right now? Is this something I want to do? Because like if you're doing something with resistance, then like there's no point, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Asking your intuition too. So like when you ask, like what I do, I give this advice to all of my friends. Whenever they're thinking about making a decision, like I'll tell Annie this sometimes. She'll call me and be like, what do I do about this? And I'll be like, all right, close your eyes for a second, take a deep breath in, breathe out, and then tell me the answer, because you already have the answer within you. You don't need it from me.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mirror the same thing back to you too when you ask for.
Yeah, it's
totally.
so true. It's so true. Do you guys know what your disc energy is?
No, what's that?
I think I know mine. I'm more D and I and less C. Less S.
What's this? Is this another personality test?
Yeah.
I love personality tests. Will you send it to me?
Yeah. I'm more D and I. So I guess like leader and influencer, right? Dominant.
So D is more dominant. So and this is just a quick overview because there's so much beneath the surface, kind of like even the word manifesting generator, there's so much under that. But basically D is like, more in your masculine, leader, authoritative, get stuff done, don't get caught up in the details, results and action-based. I is interpersonal, so they're all about people and relating and connecting, and they're more like lighthearted, life of the party. They go to a party to talk to people, not just to get drunk or whatever, so to speak, unless the getting drunk part relates to more connection with other people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that sounds like me.
The S is more, for me, it stands for soothing. So they're like the nurturers, the mother hens of the group, all their friends. They're very soft and gentle and motherly sort of thing. And then C's are very conservative. So they're very like the professor type of energy. They're very academic. They like things structured bit by bit, all the finer details. So things like lawyers, accountants, anything that requires like, they look to the past for evidence of whether something will work or not. Whereas D is the dominant energy, are like, I don't care, I'm going to do this anyway. And they go ahead and nothing really stops them. So there's a lot more to it than that. But that's, everyone's got a bit of every energy in themselves. Everyone's got a bit of D, I, S, and C. It's just varying degrees and levels. And once you understand that about yourself too, it's just like, I'm the same. I love personality tests and things that help you understand more about yourself and how you function and also other people and read them. So check it out I will send you the link after this, Gracie.
I love that. Yeah, I would love that. And just based on what you said, I think I sound a lot like the I and the S type for sure. Yeah.
Well, I picked up on that a little bit before when you were talking about like, very feminine and flowy and, like really connected and creative. Like that's very much like an S energy as well.
Totally. That's so cool.
Yeah.
All D and I.
Yeah. I think in the past when I was, in the past with like narcissistic relationships, because this is the thing, your energy can change as well and morph according to the environment too. So my relationship forced me to step really into an S and a C energy, but naturally, I guess I've evolved into more of an I and a D. With a bit of C. When I'm under stress or pressure, I go into C. I'm like, what's the pros and the cons? How do I work this out? Like I go very much into like the detail. So there's an adaptive energy as well. So for example, in relationships, you might become more of an S energy, but in, fitness and business, you might be a bit more of a D or an I. Do you know what I mean? So there's different times that the energy pulls out. Yeah. 100%.
I love that. Oh, I'm going to have to take that after this.
Yeah. Well, talking of, where can people find you guys online?
So you can find me on Instagram at the Glam Fit Diva.
Annie, by the way.
Yeah, this is Annie. www.theglamfitdiva.com or on Facebook under Annie Calvaneso.
Beautiful. Love
and then for me, it's probably easiest to find Annie first and then find me because my last name is in my name and it's really hard to spell. So you can find me at Gracie Calvaneso. So it's Graciecalvaneso on all platforms, on Instagram, on my Spotify. Once I get my single released, you can find me there. On Facebook, I've got a Facebook music page. And all that stuff, GracieCalvaneso.com. You can find my shows and music and more of my music on there.
Lovely. Do you guys have any offers at the moment, like any programs that you're running or clients that you're, open to?
So right now I am accepting one-on-one clients for both fitness and also business coaching, consulting. So for fitness clients, I work with clients on coming from a place of self-love, not a place of self-hate. Right now I'm actually accepting people that are not musicians and artists and creatives, just because I know there's a really definite need for it right now with everyone being home and needing a fitness plan and people having their egos come out full force, being triggered to eat more or to eat less and all that stuff. So really supporting people with that. And then the business side of things, I have one spot to help someone start their business as well.
Beautiful. And what about you, Gracie? Are you focusing solely on songwriting at the moment?
I'm doing a lot of writing, yeah, but I do teach a few online voice lessons. So if there's anybody that wants to take online voice lessons, I have a few spots left for that too. But I've been really focused on writing songs and just kind of connecting to that and releasing my single, which I'm so excited about. But if there are any musicians that are listening to this or songwriters and you want to connect, hit me up. Would love to connect.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to hear it when it comes out.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm pumped.
Me too. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for tuning in and for spending this beautiful time together on the Slaying Your Side Hustle podcast. I am so glad that you stopped by, and if you want to stop by again, then hit the subscribe button for future episodes. For more beyond this podcast, you can email me at oliviapowcoaching@gmail.com, or you can even send me a Facebook DM telling me what you thought and what you'd like to hear more of. Feel free to hang out with me on Instagram, tag me, or share my stuff on your stories, whatever you like. If you could just take 1 second to share this episode with someone who would love it, then that would truly be amazing, and this would continue to contribute to the greater good by spreading the love to thousands and thousands of like-minded entrepreneurial and business women around the globe. Isn't that a cool thought? I think so too. See you in the next episode.